adding section 1157.16 bicycle park. Okay, this is a carryover from last month's meeting, and we were sent information by a resident concerning the parking, their comments to his email, Keith Webb's email.
Tim, did Kevin review these proposed changes?
Can you repeat that?
We had asked that Kevin review these proposed changes by Mr. Webb for inclusion
I have not
into
heard
our
anything
proposed
back.
legislation.
Yeah, I have not heard anything back. I assume that that conversation would have gone on at an administrative level.
I would recommend that whenever we do make a motion on this, that we recommend that these proposed changes by Mr. Webb be approved as recommended by the service director. Reading through them, they look pretty reasonable. It's just
Sure.
what he talked about at the meeting.
Exactly. Do we want to table it then until we can have Kevin Eller's comments regarding these items?
I don't believe you need to table it. I think we can just word the
Okay.
motion such that recommendations as Mr. Webb proposed and
Okay,
then reviewed by the service director.
Yeah, if I understood the way Mr. Webb put it, it would give Kevin or the service director the ability to weigh out the need based off of the circumstances.
good. Do I have a motion? Could I get a motion?
But there's one more thing, Ken.
Okay,
Again, I would like to do as we discussed and is recorded in the meeting minutes from the last time, that the language in the ordinance be altered from saying that it's required at existing businesses to recommended at existing businesses. Let me find it in the meeting minutes.
okay,
Encouraged is the word we use.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
In place. That means because we are sending back the legislation to the Planning Commission with recommended changes, they can approve it with a simple majority of 4, but it'll take 5 or more to override the Plan Commission's recommendations.
so we need,
welcome a motion to approve it with those 2 changes,
right,
or
We need
recommend approval by City Council.
I'm looking for a motion to reflect what we've just talked about.
I'll motion to recommend that council approves with the changes recommended that we discussed, as well as the verbiage change from required to encouraged.
Second,
I'll second that.
Wasn't sure if I need more on there or not.
Could you give me the exact what I should put as a motion?
Do it again.
I motion that we recommend approval by council of the proposed code additions with the language recommendations, as well as the change proposed by Mayor Stowe at the February meeting. Does that cover it?
I understand the
Let's not say Mayor
required
Sal,
to,
let's say, as in the meeting minutes, to change the word encouraged, to use the word encouraged instead of required per the meeting minutes.
Yeah, that works.
and what is the other part though? The other part is what I'm confused on.
Keith Webb's recommendations.
So, and to include Keith Webb's recommendations?
It would be the
Incorporate.
combination of Keith Webb's recommendations and the verbiage change from required to encouraged.
Okay. Thank you.
And that verbiage change is just for existing businesses.
Do we need anything about with Kevin's input or approval?
I think this would essentially, assuming approval, would give the authority to Kevin to make those executive decisions.
Okay, you okay, Debbie? If you got it okay? You all right?
I think so.
Okay, all right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Hey,
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, so we'll recommend this to City Council. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, lot split 1-2021, submitted by Feller Finch and Associates for Summer S. Lehman, trustee for the property located at 8362 Sylvania Metamora Road. Is Mr. Feller here?
I don't see him.
I do not see him.
Is there anyone else here to speak to the request?
I can speak on behalf of it, of what's being proposed. So the proposal is a lot split of what is a single lot right now to become 2 lots. There were mentions made from the zoning department as well as engineer at the city of some concerns. You guys should have those concerns. The concern that there's a couple of things. First of all, the way the house exists with the garage, the existing accessory building, there are non-compliant or non-conforming issues that exist. The first being that the house is only 13.21 feet from Hideaway Lane. That's not likely going to change with or without this lot split unless this house is either completely demoed or maybe in an event of a, complete catastrophic event that would destroy the house. And the same thing with the garage. Currently, the garage. So I'll go back a little bit. That side along Hideaway Lane should be 25 feet. According to our zoning code, and it's 13.21. I believe that this house was existing before Hideaway Lane was put in, so it was actually the roadway that created the non-conforming situation. I don't know the timeline on the rest of this, but when this garage, I'm assuming, was up also prior to the development. So I believe the development actually created the non-conforming situation with the garage that appears to have been there for quite some time. But currently the northern point is about 1.3 feet off of the property line, and the bottom southern portion of that garage is 2.68 feet off of the western property line. Our code requires a minimum of 3 feet for that. Again, it's a non-conforming condition of an existing structure not likely to change unless that structure is eliminated in some fashion. So that's the portions that exist regardless of this lot split or not. With the lot split, so it meets the minimum widths requirements, it meets the minimum depth requirements, it meets the minimum square footage requirements. From a zoning perspective, my only concern is we don't know what's planned for this property right now. What we do know, Ken and I discussed this earlier this week. the parcel would be zoned R2, which would limit it to single-family housing. If a single-family house were built on this property within the building envelope, it may be a little bit tight assuming the house would face Hideaway Lane. The back left corner of whatever's built there may be tight because of the way that garage, they cut the property line out to include that garage on the front property, or the existing house with the southern property. So I have concerns really about whether or not a rear yard will be met in that situation. On the same hand, it's only likely to affect who's ever within that property. So the non-conforming conditions that exist are there anyway. A new house design could be designed in such a way that it's not affected really by that offset, but those are my concerns. I did look at it assuming that this may eventually be pursued as a zoning variance or a rezone to include either potentially like a PD or a rezone to something that would allow similar condo units or duplex type style housing that's immediately to the north. Basically everything else is on Hideaway Lane. If they built the same exact product, literally, if it were split up into two units, the southern unit there literally would be walking out the door to the property line. There would be no patio, no porch out the back. It lines up, the back of the houses line up almost with that line of where that is. So that's my concern, is we don't know what's going to go on it. I did ask that question if I could get a response from the applicants. I did not receive anything back to indicate what, the plans are. Usually with a lot split, there's a game plan of some sort. I have discussed this with Kevin Aller. I think we both agreed from the city's standpoint, we don't have a lot of concern from the city standpoint because it's only going to affect likely these two properties. So the current owner would hold the situation in their hand upon approval of how to handle building on that lot within the confinements of setbacks.
All right, so I went out and looked at this, and it doesn't look feasible at all for them to put a duplex condo type building that are on Hideaway Lane. If we were going to grant or recommend, rather, if we were going to recommend approval of this lot split, I would have to insist on an attachment, a caveat that it could only ever be used as a single family, that they could not ever put two families on that. It would detract from the entire aesthetics of that whole neighborhood to see something crammed in like that, because when I look at this and I looked at that outbuilding, I don't know that it's a garage, more of a shed than anything. If that shed were gone, if that were demolished and that lot were a four-sided rectangular conventional lot that probably exists all up and down Hideaway Lane, I would feel better. But somebody's going to walk out and it looks, if they put a duplex building on there, it looks to me like they could reach out from their back door or window or whatever. It's just not enough room, in my opinion. It might meet the code, but it sure doesn't look like it when you go out there. It's a nice neighborhood. And if you guys recall, when the water tower was presented. Now, all of us weren't on the commission at that time, but those neighbors really objected to the water tower strenuously. And we said, well, for the good of the community, we needed that water tower, and we overruled them. So I don't want to give them another heartburn by allowing for something that's going to detract from their neighborhood, because I drove the neighborhood all, several times up and down the street, and it's all very well maintained. And I think cramming in a duplex building there detracts considerably, to my opinion.
So to give a idea that the standard building footprint on an 80-foot by 118-foot lot allows for a building envelope of about 4,624 square feet, which is a rather large house. That's how big a house could be based off of that footprint, minus the little clip where the garage is, which again,
Right.
I think something will have to be, in my opinion, probably designed around that, or designed with that in mind, to accommodate a reasonable backyard. That's from the zoning point, that would be my concern.
Tim, you've stated that the proposed lot does not meet the required depth. The second lot
No,
doesn't.
it does. It does meet the required depth.
In what we've
Part of it.
got, it says it doesn't.
I think it misses by under 2 feet. It misses by 1.19 feet. It's supposed to be 120, it's 118.81.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That is in, yeah, that's not in the R2 code. That's in the lot code for lot splits. That is correct, for subdivisions.
So the proposed north lot doesn't meet the depth, correct?
That is correct. That would also coincide with all of the housing that's on Hideaway Lane.
All of Hideaway Lane has the depth of 118.
Yep. Or
Okay.
around there. They might
Yeah,
change slightly, but it's right around there.
Okay.
So there's an understanding, everything that was developed on Hideaway is a PD, which with a planned development that allows for exceptions to required setbacks.
Okay.
With approval. So that's, I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that from a city perspective, administrative perspective, 2 feet's going to make or break whether somebody could reside on this lot.
Well, if we're thinking that sometime in the future, there has to be a change or a variance to square the lot off and get the portion that has the garage or the shed into the north lot, why isn't that being done now? I mean, it just kind of muddies things up for the future. And we saw what happened over on Monroe Street with that other lot split from numerous years ago, where the woman is living in the garage that is not an approved residence. So I hate to see us create another,
Situation.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I would agree.
Well-
I would agree with Ken. This is just really very small.
And when you look at this,
Lot would be R2, which is small lot residential. And I think maybe the caveat that Ken was talking about, we can put in the minutes and maybe do it in some other official way, that it can only be used per the R2 zoning, which is small lot residential. They would have to come back in for another zoning change to put a duplex on it, in which case we would require the lot to be squared off and that shed removed.
Yeah, I think along with that, any type of change from R2, single family housing would require a visit back to the city, some type of approval. Anything other than a single family house would require either a zoning change, a plan development, some type of additional approval or rezoning. Any of those fashions is going to require approval either from council or a zoning board.
All right. So our recommendation tonight is to whether or not to allow the split as submitted to us. But how, and the present zoning on it is
R2.
R2, and R2 is strictly single family small lot.
So what R2 allows is accessory uses, which would be like a garage. Accessory has to be accessory to a house, what Carol was speaking of on the other house. Hopefully we've learned our lesson on that. Agriculture, all the different forms of education from elementary to nursery school to high school. Home occupation, parks or playgrounds or community or oriented or publicly owned buildings or agencies. Any type of a special use, which again would require some type of approval through council for any type of special use permit. Or a single family dwelling is the only type of residential.
Okay, because I mean, this structure, I don't want to call it a garage because it's not.
Our code calls it an accessory building, Ken. So
Okay,
it
all right.
doesn't matter whether it's a garage, a shed, in this case,
All right.
a little.
Accessory building. Okay, accessory building has got 10 feet from the proposed property line, so that falls within our code to be 10 feet off. There, you only need to be 3, is what you said, and it's on the back side of that, on the west side, that it's not, and then it's got 5 feet on what would be the north side between the north property line and the structure, so that would conform. I guess if it's used as a tool shed, it's functional. It's certainly not going to be used for any kind of a vehicle to be turning in and out. So I guess I don't have any problem with the lot split, provided that it's a single family split. And if they want to change it, they got to come back through and request an R2, correct? Okay.
Anything other than R2. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to speak to this issue?
I just had a quick question. So looking at the ownership of the property of the first split, Summer Lehman is actually the daughter of Doug Wamsher, who's deceased. So she's the trustee, and is it a developer who's asking for this request from this Feller, Finch and Associates? So the property, I know is still going through the estate. The estate's not even settled yet.
Yeah.
So is the property under development?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, the information that's come to me has come through an engineering service, Feller and Finch.
Yeah, okay.
And at this point, I have no indication of what it would be other than an R2 lot.
Okay.
And they cannot build a duplex building on an R2 lot, correct?
Without coming back to the city. For
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I just,
R2 has no permitted use for multifamily in any way.
okay, all right. And it's presently zoned R2.
That is correct.
Okay, good. All right. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Did Mr. Feller show up yet, or does?
I have not seen him join in.
Okay.
I got the list sitting next to me, so.
Okay, all right.
I also tried calling over there.
Okay. Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is another council referral for an SUP 1-2021 submitted by Stephen E. Carr, agent for Cellco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless, for the construction of a cell tower behind Northview High School. I have to hold on a second here. I have to plug in my phone because I'm going to lose power here. So let me plug in. Okay, I'm back with you. We have a number of individuals here who would like to speak to this issue. So I'd like to suggest that if your comments have been already presented to the board, please don't be repetitious with your comments. And I'd like to limit the timeline for comments to 3 minutes. So if we could get started with Stephen Carr. Would you like to make a presentation, Mr. Carr?
Gene, you're going to do the introduction?
Yeah, actually, Ken, I'd like to lead off, and I respectfully request a little bit more than 3 minutes for Mr. Carr's presentation because I think there's a fair amount of materials. My name is Gene Abercrombie. I'm a real estate partner with Eastman and Smith downtown Toledo. I represent Tarpon Towers 2 LLC in connection with its application to site a cell tower at the Northview campus. With me, I have John Armour, Executive Vice President of Tarpon Towers, as well as Steve Carr, a consultant for Tarpon Towers, who is a director of EBM Wireless. Tarpon Towers and the Board of Education of Sylvania School District entered into a lease in January of this year to permit them to construct a tower, obviously subject to city approval. And at this point, I would like to turn things over to John real briefly to talk about who Tarpon Tower is.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing us tonight. Tarpon Towers is a cellular tower company that has been in existence since about 2008. We collectively, as owners of the company, have over 100 years experience in building and operating cellular towers in the United States. If you take our combined experience, we've built over 10,000 towers nationwide. And we've partnered with Verizon here. Verizon is our anchor tenant, and they're the ones who obviously have requested this particular area. And as I mentioned, they partnered with us to build this tower. So that's why we're here today.
Great. Thank you, John. And at this point, I'd like to turn things over to Steve Carr, who will go through the necessity for the tower and review the plans and answer any questions specific to this project. Steve?
Thank you very much, Gene. Like Gene stated, my name is Steve Carr, address 2894 Aldersgate Drive, Greenwood, Indiana 46143. I'm going to go through my PowerPoint presentation to kind of give you the lay of the land, show you a little bit about the site and where it's located on the property. So let me try this. I had some quick training by Chuck prior to the start of the meeting, so let's see how this works.
Right now, I do not see your video, so you might have to turn your video on.
Is it there?
No,
I do not see video.
I don't either.
Either.
Hold
You're
on a
gonna have
second.
to share your screen somehow, and Chuck may have to give you permission to do that.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, you're gonna have to give me permission to share because I don't have a camera on my computer.
Does one of the other fellows?
Yeah, let me. You
I think
saw
he
it
said he,
earlier. Let me see. In the PowerPoint presentation portion or the camera point? You gotta be kidding me.
Better you than me.
Okay, so I'm here again right now, and I kind of direct me here. Yep, I see that. I did. You seeing it now? All right.
Well, while you're trying to, oh, there we go.
All right.
There we go. I got it. Okay. All right.
So basically, we're requested a special use permit request to place a tower at the address of 5403 Silica Drive. This is basically an aerial photograph. Is everybody seeing this fine?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. This is basically an aerial photograph of the school campus. And as you can see, the red square that is on the aerial photograph, that is our proposed site location. Access to our site will be coming off of Silica Drive, where we have a legal description for 24/7 access from Silica Drive to our proposed site. We will also be obtaining utilities from this section of the property, and they will be located underground to the proposed site in an easement that was granted to us through the access and utility easement for the site. This is basically a survey showing the proposed site on the property as well, just kind of further showing where the site is in reference to property lines and distances thereof.
You have it staked already, don't you? I saw flags out there over the weekend. That's why I asked.
Yeah, they might have done some utility marking and various things, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, so because we had to get some soil testing done and various other things that are part of our due diligence process.
Okay.
So the next slide is kind of a blow up of our lease area. So the area in green is where our compound area will be. First of all, when you have, it kind of shows how the access drive goes through the existing parking lot, takes an immediate 90-degree turn into an area that is currently classified as a no parking area, which we will drive onto our proposed entrance area. There will be a gate on the north end of this green squared area. And then we also have inside that compound is where the proposed Verizon equipment will be, as I identified that with the red arrow signifying the Verizon equipment. We also have two future areas that are laid out for two future co-locators, which we will build this site to accommodate Verizon and other possible co-locations if another carrier has need for improvement of service in this area. And we, just for the sake of kind of giving you a good understanding, if you've been out to the school property since they've built the new softball diamonds, they have a batting cage area. This site is basically going to be just northeast of that batting cage area. So that kind of gives you a layout of where the site is in reference to the current structures on the property. This particular page shows you a vertical profile of the tower. The tower is going to be 130 feet tall with a 10-foot lightning rod. The Verizon Rad Center will be located about 125 feet so that their antennas will top out at about 130. And the way this tower is designed, you see where we have future co-locators as well. So theoretically, Verizon would occupy the space of 125 feet. Second carrier would occupy the space of 115 and then 105 for the third carrier. So that's kind of showing you the vertical profile of the structure and the fact that the site will be built for co-location as well. This page kind of shows you the detail of the fence. It'll be a black vinyl fence that'll have black slates within the black vinyl fence area to create a screening of the equipment. Kind of similar to how they screen the baseball field now in the outfield fence. This picture is as if I was looking at if I was in the lease area looking back towards the north. As you can see, the baseball field's there. That's looking back towards the entrance that will come in off of Silica Drive. And then you can see right to the right there is the batting cage area. This is looking back towards the east for the proposed site area. And this is looking back towards the west. Now, this section of my presentation is basically we did a photo simulation. So we had our engineer photo simulate the proposed facility. First, take a picture of the area and then use photo simulation engineering procedures to place the facility in the picture so you can get an understanding of what its visual impact will be. So the first picture at the top is what exists today, or the time we took it, which was probably last fall, close to it. And then the second picture is putting the facility within the photograph on its proposed location. You're looking at this is as if you're up against the school on the east, looking back towards the northwest. This is a second view of the facility. You currently, this is if you're over by the Lord's football field, looking back towards the school. And as you can see, if the before photograph, you currently have light standards that exist in the skyline that currently are used to light up baseball field and the softball field. This photograph is if I'm standing at Silica Drive looking back into the proposed site location. This would be the way that we would access the site. And if you look at the before picture, as you can see, there's a lot of existing infrastructure there that supports the lighting of the diamonds of both softball and the standard baseball diamonds. And this is another shot looking back from the north across the school parking lot, back towards the site where the site is located in the south, and the before photo at the top and the after photo at the bottom. So that's pretty much the layout of the proposed site. The site is located 457 yards from the north property line, 391 feet, or 457 feet from the north property line, 391 feet from the south property line, 661 feet from the east property line, and then 672 feet from the west property line. So we've kind of located the site within the center of the property. The site will be used to improve coverage for Verizon Wireless's services. They were experiencing a great deal of drop calls and coverage issues for this area for quite some time. And this site will help improve the drop call and coverage issues in this area. And with that being said, if anybody has any specific questions about the presentation, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to answer any specific questions.
This is Ken Marciniak. The coverage area that this tower will cover is, can you give me an approximate, does it cover service for a 1 mile radius, a 2 mile radius, a half a mile radius? Do you have any idea as to what the coverage will be?
Yeah, part of the our application process, we provided coverage maps within the package, which
Okay.
it's a basically computer modeled coverage, and it's based off of topography, foliage, and various other things. As far as putting an exact number on saying, hey, it'll give you coverage from this point on and then drop off. We just know that this proposed site fits very well within the current network that we have. We also even looked at existing structures, specifically the water tank that is located north of this proposed site, to try and not have to go through a whole process of zoning a new facility and trying to accommodate an existing structure. But the proposed water tank site caused issues with interference to sites over into the Michigan market, and not be something that we could utilize because we would not have been able to use our PCS services at that site. So a specific distance saying, hey, it'll only cover this much, it's a very range that you can't really give a specific number to. And also the coverage area changes a bit from between the spring and fall with foliage, summer and fall. So
I was just selfish reasons hoping that you could tell me that my service is going to be improved, because I'm probably I'm in one of those zones where I drop pretty regular.
yeah.
So
well, one of the points that was discussed with the school board, we've been in discussions with the school board for quite some time on this. This took a lot of thought, a lot of understanding of what would work for the campus. They had the future plans of the softball diamonds in play. And one of the biggest things that the school allowed them to say, you know what, we really have to do something, is because of the coverage problems that they experienced when there were some big events that happened over in that area. Also, that was communicated in our school board meeting about the lack of coverage and the definite need to make some improvements. And this is definitely a step in the right direction.
I will assume that the Board of Education will be the recipient, the beneficiary of the lease, and they will, the rental rate, the rent will be paid to the Board of Education?
That is correct.
Good, okay. Is there anyone else in attendance who might have a question or concern, comments, pro or con, that would like to speak?
And I think you have a list of people that have asked to speak.
Okay, so I'll just, I have a Robert Berg. Is
Yeah.
Mr. Berg present?
He won't be speaking, actually. I'm sorry about that.
Is this Zoe? Is
This
this Zoe?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Well, we had you down first anyways. Go ahead. And then
Oh,
Tony
no.
will be taking over.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Zoe Berg. I'm the project director of Americans for Responsible Technology. We are a nonprofit organization based in New York that deals with telecommunications related siting issues, particularly in residential areas. I'm here tonight to support the residents of the Sylvania community who are opposing the installation of a 130-foot Verizon cell tower at Northview High School, a designated R1 zone or residential zone. If this project proceeds, and we hope that it doesn't, students, staff, and faculty at the high school and Lord's University will undoubtedly be bringing claims against Verizon and the school district for reasonable accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act. People who have various medical conditions such as cancer, seizures, fertility problems, cognitive and learning deficiencies, etc., will have those conditions further impaired by constant bombardment of radiofrequency microwave radiation, which has been discussed and concluded in peer-reviewed, independent medical and scientific research since the 1960s. Electromagnetic sensitivity is already a recognized disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act and is also a recognized disability by the U.S. Access Board, a federal agency that addresses disability access-related issues in federally funded facilities. In the case of G versus Fay School Incorporated, the District Court of Massachusetts decided on September 29th of 2017 that the Americans with Disabilities Act is not preempted by the Telecommunications Act of 1996. Thus, people such as the students at these institutions, the faculty, staff, can request accommodations, and those accommodations must be considered. If such accommodations are denied, the school district and possibly the city could be subjected to litigation. Now, shifting gears for a moment, last night at approximately 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, a cell tower caught fire at Otay Ranch High School in Chula Vista, California. Right now, the cause of the fire is unknown, but this is not the first cell tower to catch fire, and it certainly won't be the last, as cell towers are prone to electrical issues that can cause short-circuiting and dangerous conditions. In the case of Chula Vista, the cell tower collapsed on school property, destroying the bleachers at the football field, causing significant damage to school grounds. Luckily, there were no injuries reported at the scene, but what if this fire had occurred during a high school game, one of the baseball games, while hundreds of kids were sitting in the bleachers or playing baseball? This leads me to my second major point of the evening, liability. Verizon has no insurance to cover potential liabilities and damages from this proposed facility. If this planning commission recommends approval of this special use permit without first requiring that Verizon can obtain commercial liability insurance, it leaves the city unprotected from any legal claims arising from this facility and the granting of this permit. Ironically, if this commission and ultimately the city requires that Verizon obtain such commercial liability insurance, Verizon will tell you they cannot actually get this kind of insurance. Why? Because all insurance companies expressly exclude risks from wireless radiation from their coverage policies. And now I pose a series of questions for your consideration. Page 33 of the February 16th, 2021 City Council meeting agenda packet states that additional federal approvals are needed if this special use permit is approved. What are those additional approvals? Page 33 also states that residents are complaining of poor cell coverage in the area. Where is the evidence of that? Why was evidence of these alleged correspondences or complaints not included in the documentation? Page 39 and 40 show two red and yellow capacity and coverage plots. Where is the corresponding data to support these illustrations? According to antennasearch.com, there are 29 tower structures and 119 antenna locations within a 3-mile radius of the proposed installation site at 5403 Silica Drive. Page 40 indicates that only one alternative site was examined to remedy the alleged gap in coverage and capacity issues. Why was every possible reasonable alternative site not considered here? Verizon is required to do a thorough analysis of every available site, and it's impossible for there to be only one alternative site. Thus, the analysis is incomplete. Furthermore, where is the RF compliance analysis associated with this cell tower proposal? How do we know that this equipment is within the FCC's general public exposure guidelines, which, by the way, haven't been updated since 1996 and are currently being challenged in federal court? In conclusion, we urge this commission to deny Verizon's application for a special use permit at Northview High School, address 5403 Silica Drive, as it is woefully inadequate. The burden of proof has not been satisfied. Thank you for your time.
Gene?
Yes.
Would you?
I would like to address a number of things here. First off,
Please.
I would like to know if Ms. Berg is a licensed attorney in the state of Ohio.
I am not.
I would ask the board to strike all of her testimony as she is purporting to represent a group of property owners without a license to practice law.
I'm not representing property owners.
You indicated you were representing property owners.
For the city of Sylvania.
Not as a lawyer.
You indicated you were representing property owners. If you are speaking on behalf of someone else,
As
in
a
this
spoke-
type of a capacity, it is the practice of law in the state of Ohio, and I would ask the board to disregard all of the testimony. Additionally, Ms. Berg's testimony was not sworn, so it should be stricken from the record for that reason as well.
The other guy was not sworn in either. And I actually, when I introduced myself, I said I was the project director of Americans for Responsible Technology, not a lawyer. So I am here in that capacity. Thank
It
you.
doesn't matter what you call yourself. It matters that you're representing the interests of the other property owners in the R1 zone district, which is what you stated before. I'm sure that we could, after this, get a recording of exactly what you said. So I would ask the board to strike her testimony as unauthorized practice of law.
I am a member of the public and I am, allowed to speak in that capacity. So that's what I did.
And where do you reside, Ms. Berg?
I reside in Scarsdale, New York.
Okay, so you have no personal interest in this property. So you
Hey, Ken,
no, unfortunately, you do not. You lack standing in the state of Ohio in
That's
order
not
to.
Ken,
That is absolutely true.
Absolutely not. That is not true.
this is not appropriate, I don't believe, for this meeting.
I'll inject at this time that I was sent an email late this afternoon with a number of attachments that I have not been able to review. So what I simply did was rely on the good old internet, and I Googled, just for my information, do cell towers cause health issues? The American Cancer Society has a reply. The American Cancer Society's latest on cell phone towers. And it says here that, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that the American Cancer Society has updated its public information on cell phone towers and service. And it says that some people have expressed concerns that living, working, or going to school near a cell tower might increase the risk of cancer or other health problems. At this time, this is from the American Cancer Society. At this time, there is very little evidence to support this idea. So, we've got some real conflicting.
Ken, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Gene.
Section 704A of the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 precludes local zoning authorities from considering inciting decisions, the health or environmental effects of cell towers. So the issue is preempted by federal law.
That is inaccurate.
And again, I would ask that Ms. Berg, who is not licensed and has no standing in this matter, not be allowed to speak any further. Thank you.
Is there, let's see if I can move this along a little bit. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue available for comment? Hearing none, so we have the cell tower owners, and we have Ms. Berg, and I'm not qualified to state whether or not Ms. Berg has any right to make this presentation she's made this afternoon. Mayor, do you have any input on this matter?
I would like to ask the questions that were posed by Mr. Hanem, who I see has joined us on this call. He had 3 questions that he wanted the Planning Commission to consider, and I need to have those posed to the cell phone company. The first one was that the tower will be constructed and maintained in accordance with the nationally recognized standard for cell tower construction and I would assume that's true, but I need you to answer that.
John or Steve or someone? Gene?
Yeah, this is Steve Carr. Yes, the tower will be built under current Ohio building standards, and that will all go through the checks and balances process of the building permit process through reviewing our structural engineering data that we supply for our building permit request.
Mr. Hanem's second question, as we have them in the meeting minutes, was the owner and operator of the tower will annually certify that the tower is physically and structurally safe, robust, and sound, and meets or exceeds all current nationally recognized standards for cell tower construction and maintenance.
That's standard practice in our industry.
I would think that's true. I think his third question is a little bit more difficult, and I'm going to read the language that we have in our meeting minutes from the Clerk of Council. The owner and operator will be obligated to decommission the tower at the end of the useful life of the tower and to provide the city prior to initiating construction of the tower with financial assurance that there will be sufficient funds to decommission the tower at the end of its useful life of the tower. And further, that such financial assurance shall be in the form approved by the city, which may include establishment of a performance bond, a trust fund, or other insurance. Now, you may already have that in your lease with the owner. If you do, you can furnish it with the city. Again, I want to reiterate that the Plan Commission does not have the right of approval or rejection of this application. The Plan Commission is going to make a recommendation back to City Council. A public hearing will be held, and then Council will vote on it. But I am interested into your answer about this financial obligation to decommission the tower.
We are more than happy to post a removal bond. Again, it's something that is, I wouldn't say standard, but it is something that happens in our industry, especially when we're dealing with something like this situation at a school or a municipality.
All right, that was a very straightforward answer. I appreciate that. You may want to forward the language for that or a copy of the bond or form to us so we can go back to City Council with that information.
Are there any other individuals who would like to comment at this time?
I would. Hi, Mr. Marciniak.
Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. This is, you want to state your full name and address?
Absolutely, and I will be brief, I promise. It's been a long meeting, I know. My name is Dr. Lindsay Samuelson. I'm a Northview graduate, 1992, Sylvania resident currently, and also a current business owner. I hold a medical license and have been studying chronic disease and environmental medicine for over 25 years. I would like to point out a few things that my colleagues and I around the globe have been witnessing in the last few years. Verizon assures it follows all FCC safety standards. These standards, however, were established in 1996 based on science from 1991. The FCC has admittedly never considered cell phone safety in their guidelines, nor do they consider multiple devices being used at one time in their assessment. When these standards were established, smart devices didn't even exist. There are thousands of peer-reviewed, published scientific papers demonstrating biological damage at non-thermal levels of electromagnetic frequency, or EMFs, which include cell phone towers. They contribute to immunological, neurological, cardiovascular, and reproductive harm. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends reducing children's exposure to wireless radiation based on these recent studies. So does the Cleveland Clinic and several state health departments. Concerning symptoms such as headaches, memory problems, dizziness, depression, and insomnia were noted on the American Academy of Pediatrics website. Communities around the globe and in more than a dozen states have set safety standards below FCC exposure limits because they are inadequate and are currently being challenged in the Washington, D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, as Zoe mentioned. It was in this hearing in January that the FCC Advisory Committee admitted that it has never considered cell phone safety in their assessments. In 2011, the WHO listed EMF as a Group 2B human carcinogen, and 80% of all epidemiological studies show harm with repeated exposure at distances of up to 1,500 feet of the towers. There's a 2-year study that was published in 2018 that showed male adolescents studying at a school with a cell phone tower on school property had delays in fine and gross motor skills, spatial working memory issues, and attention span problems due to their ongoing exposure to the cell phone tower. This was a study of over 200 students, aged 13 to 16. In 2004, fire stations in LA County established an ordinance, no cell phone towers on their buildings due to symptoms of insomnia, headache, fatigue, memory loss, depression, and anger. EMFs are a suspected neurotoxin, endocrine disruptor, and carcinogen not adequately regulated at the FCC, at this time. The city of Sylvania could be held liable for any harmful effects caused by the towers, given that wireless telecom companies cannot obtain commercial liability insurance. Many insurance policies for these towers have what's called a pollution exclusion clause, so that local governments would foot the bill. I kindly urge the council to examine all facets of this proposal and consider prevention as well as profitability in your decision-making. Alternatives do exist and will ensure our children and grandchildren thrive in this community for years to come. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lindsay. Again, I, not being as versed as you and Zoe were, you know, the representations made by you are totally 100% conflicting with what I'm just reading here on my laptop. So I guess I'm not sure who to believe or what the accurate answer is. Gentlemen from Verizon, do you have any?
Yes, 2 points. Number one, I renew my objection to consideration of health and environmental related issues as they are preempted by federal law. Secondly, while not questioning Dr. Samuelson's statements with respect to the medical science, she did make a legal conclusion in that the city could be liable. A determination of liability is a legal question which she is not licensed to nor qualified to opine to. So I would object to the entirety of her testimony and ask it to be stricken from the record of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Do any members of the Plan Commission have any comments, any questions they'd like to raise at this time?
Ken, could I make a request of Gene that he provide us with the basis for the preemption argument that he made? It'll help counsel.
I can certainly do that, Mr. Hannum.
Thank you.
Again, this is Craig Stow. It is, I think, beyond the scope of the Plan Commission's expertise to review these health issues, and it may be necessary for this to be a council consideration during a public hearing process to actually review these. This is not a zoning code issue as far as I can see. The application lists substantial distances from the property lines, which seems to be a safe zoning issue. They did not state how far it was from the school building, and it's certainly less than 1,500 feet. It's closer than that, but I think we're going to go through a process here that would have to be replicated in a public hearing process, and I think we ought to put it back to City Council to go through their public hearing process to review this. But from a zoning standpoint, I'm not sure what our objections would be other than to cite some health issues that we are not qualified to assess. but city council will have a public hearing process with more people notified than this meeting that would allow people to come in and speak. I know we have two city councilmen on the line right now, Mr. Hanem and Mr. McCann. I'm not sure what the Plan Commission can further accomplish other than the answers we've already received to Mr. Hanem's questions when this was referred to the Plan Commission. And there is a decommissioning bond that's been promised. I would welcome hearing from Mr. Hanem or Mr. McCann if that is a satisfactory outcome at this point.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm looking forward to the public hearing process, and I don't want to prejudge that, but yeah, I'm encouraged by the answers that we heard this evening.
As was I.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. I guess first question, Mr. Marciniak, are there any other members of the public who would like to speak? If not, I have a couple of closing comments.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a presentation? Hearing none, Gene, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I will be brief. The Sylvania zoning code, as we discussed, is preempted, and I will indicate, or I will provide information through Plan Commission that can be shared with council with respect to that issue well in advance of the public hearing at the city council level on the ultimate approval or disapproval of this project. But Sylvania's code does provide a couple of items that should guide the Plan Commission in making this determination. And Mr. Mayor, I believe you stated it correctly that the things that are being brought up are kind of outside of the expertise, the purview, and the purpose of this hearing. And those items that are set forth in your zoning code are: one, the special use is necessary or desirable for public convenience at that location. Two, the special use is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated that public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. And three, the special use will not cause substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood. I believe that we've made a showing of all of those items and are entitled to a positive recommendation to the Plan Commission for its full consideration. This project has been designed with safety first in mind. The tower is designed such that it would collapse upon itself and not endanger the school or any of the students. And as we have discussed, there are some coverage gaps, and we can supply some additional information at the council level with respect to that information. But as Mr. Marciniak acknowledged himself, there are some coverage gaps, and folks experience dropped calls. So cellular technology is becoming more and more integral to our lives and to our safety. And I would impress upon the commission that the purpose of this is to help build out that network to help safety, not only of residents, but also with respect to city services and responding to emergency calls and such. I thank you for your time this evening.
Does anyone else have any comment to make in closing?
I just have one question, Ken.
Sure, go ahead,
Jeff Schaff. Is there a city or a county plan for tower location preference? I know some other markets have that are in compliance with the FCC guidelines. And being new to the commission, I wasn't sure if that actually exists for Sylvania or for Lucas County.
I'm not aware of anything for Sylvania.
Okay.
Do you know of anything for the county?
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything.
I do know that we have had at other intervals of interest in cell towers, we have had our city attorney review. There are clauses, I know, that limit new cell towers from going up if there are other tower locations that are in close proximity. I have looked at the one that's about 1,000 feet, I think, away from the one that we have in a park.
Okay. Just curious.
I am looking for a recommendation to make to city council.
I'll make a motion that this be referred to city council with a recommendation of approval with the required confirmation of the 3 issues posed by Mr. Hanem at the council meeting as a part of that recommendation. Must be confirmed in writing.
I need a second.
Second.
Let's call for the vote. All in favor by signifying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries to recommend the city council approval of this special use permit. Let me see, what else do we have? Do we have anything? We have nothing else on the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No.
Call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are officially adjourned.
Thanks,